Hi, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, why should an expat become an expat in the Philippines? Why should you, if you're out there and you're thinking about retiring into another country, another culture, why should you choose the Philippines? Well, there's several reasons why that I can think of. There's a lot of pros and cons. There's a lot to consider, and it depends on the kind of person that you are. Now, for me personally, I enjoy seeing the new. I enjoy being confronted by unusual viewpoints and unusual ways of looking at things, because I am actually seeking to make changes for myself. I'm trying to, well, I think probably most people are trying to be a better person. And one of the things that I notice about being in the Philippines is that the Filipinos definitely have the secret of staying cheerful in spite of everything that's going on. The other thing is that they're very much at home in their own skins, you know. They, even though they still consider that America is, well, it's the paradise that they seek to be part of. It's a mistaken belief, I think, because so much about America and about the Western countries will be quite contrary to the hard-held beliefs that Filipinos have. Filipinos, as you will have seen demonstrated, is they are very much family oriented. Now, if you are a person that has not enjoyed that of a close family, you might take to this in two different ways. You might not take to it at all, because lots of expats really feel invaded when they come over, because they feel that they're expected to, I don't know, in some cases it seems like they think that they're expected to support an entire family, which certainly in my case, Beth was the youngest of 10 siblings. So if I believe that I was expected to support an entire family of that, I guess I'd be feeling a little bit overwhelmed and invaded. But I don't think that that's the real case. So looking at whether it will suit you. Why people come to the Philippines is another thing. Whether they are suited to do it is what should be the main issue. Now, if you look at the fact that the Philippines has been invaded an awful lot in its lifetime, but the main influence, good, bad or indifferent, is America, and that's the main difference. Now, people get jobs in all of the Arab countries. They get jobs in various places. They get jobs in the UK. They get jobs in Australia. But the main focus of all that they think is good is America. So if you're American, then coming here will be the easiest transition for you to go into a new culture, and a new culture it certainly is. Americans, unbeknownst, I think, to most Filipinos, Americans work incredibly hard for what they have. This has to be declared as being a truth. They work very, very hard for what they have. They may certainly enjoy 2-car families or 3-car families. They may enjoy big houses. They may enjoy a lot of good things in America, and they work damn hard to have them. And it has been shown, especially in the last economic crises that have happened in the last 10, 15 years, it has been shown that a family in the States with 2 working parents can be as close to losing it all as maybe 3 paychecks, and I might be being generous there, maybe 3 paychecks away from losing everything. So they are actually quite tense about life, because it's a risky business bringing up a family in America, and they have to work very hard. They have all my admiration. The Americans are and especially they're a special race. Calling them one race is an irony, I know, because America is the immigrant nation of the world. I feel it's what is an American? American is somebody that whose mother and father speak Italian, Greek, English, German, Australia, everything. This is what is an American. And when they choose to flee that country, and very often that's what happens with an expat, when they come to this country, they're coming here for various reasons. First and foremost, most would say economic / a love of the climate and the islands, and if you're an expat, probably the women, because the women are beautiful and they are a gentle, loving female. There's no doubt about this in my mind. Now, that is a whole other video which we've already done about the ethics of, if you can generalize, which you can't really, when you talk about the ethics, what's the chances of being ripped off? That seems to be a big question and a video on its own. Let's assume that you're coming over and you're going to be the lucky guy, and you're going to meet somebody who is going to be good to you and who you are going to be good to. What kind of life are you going to have? Well, for one thing, you're not going to have to learn a language. In fact, most expats do not learn the language. Now, my belief is, and I'm the happy hypocrite here, because I have learned very little of the language, even though I've been here for 5 years, and I'm married into a loving family that I feel fortunate to be part of. I haven't learned the language, but I realize more and more with each passing day how much I am missing. So, as an aside, if you're coming and you've made up your mind to come to the Philippines, then I advise you, try right from the start to make an effort to learn the language. It will make an incredible difference to the amount of pleasure that you have of just living here day to day. All of that said, one of the pluses here is that almost everybody speaks a measure of English. So you can actually make yourself understood. You can go in a store and without even thinking about it, you're not going to, like if you went to, say, France or even Spain, you would go in and say, "Excuse me, do you speak English?" And you would probably have to do that. You don't have to do that here in the Philippines, and most people will be able to respond to you in some way, depending on how well you are at communicating and using mime and sign language and perhaps doing drawings like I always used to do. If I go in and I can't explain what the tool is that I need, I can usually do a passable drawing of it and get my point over that way. The money exchange is good. It's up, I believe it's way up now. It changes depending on where you go to change money. It changes. I've been used to it being 51 for a while, but I think it's gone up to 52 or possibly 53. Don't take that as being gospel. I think that's the way. If you go to live in a big city with all of the amenities, you can expect to pay the top peso for what you enjoy. you will have to pay what for me is a pretty penny, I can tell you, to rent a condo. You will have to search around for safe areas, which actually is pretty well the situation in almost any city that you go into. There are going to be good areas and bad areas, and it's up to you, probably with the help of your Filipina, if you're coming over here to get married. She will not let you go and live in an unsafe area. She won't want that for herself. Personally, I've always said that I prefer the province. A province is that generic name for anywhere that is not in the big city. Now, personally, I like the province because traffic is light. It's under-regulated. For the most part, under-regulated. If you start to go into business and stuff like that, then you're going to be into regulation, which is just as difficult and I don't know, heavy going as anywhere in the States or the US or the UK. That's going to be the case. Well, that's all of the upside. You would have a lovely lady. If you luck out and you choose right, you'll have a good family who will help you. You will have a pleasant day-to-day lifestyle, because it's not going to be expensive to do things like get a car. They're not hugely expensive. If you go for a brand new car, I tend to think with a siege mentality. I don't have a lot of money. I'm okay with that. I can't go out and buy, say, a Ford Ranger for 1.5 million pesos, and that's okay. I'm really not too worried about that. I never missed having a brand new Ford Ranger when I was in America, so I don't miss it now. But you may be used to driving that, and if you come over here with sufficient funds, then no doubt you will get that here. If not, you can buy something for $5,000 or $10,000 which will still do the job. So, all of that taken into account, you'll be able to find somewhere nice to live. If you are married to a Filipino, you'll be able to buy a piece of land for not too much money. You will be able to build a house with little regulation and fuss made. You'll be able to handle all of that, get a car, have a life, and you'll be able to enjoy, if you are willing to move and bend with a new, what shall we say, culture and way of doing things. You'll have a good life, I believe. What are the downsides? Well, the downsides are the infrastructure is not as, it's just not as well organized. But then it seems to me that for every time that you say, oh, yeah, if you listen to some of the expat sites, oh my God, it took me over a year to get the number plate for my new car. It took me 2 years to get an ordinary plastic license, a laminated license that you would go and pick up straight away in America or certainly after a few days wait. No matter where you are, you'd be able to do that, and maybe you can't do that in the Philippines. But the difference is that in the province, nobody gives a damn, So I went around with my driver's license was a piece of paper. I mean, literally, I had a piece of paper that in the end looked a little bit like this. Look, I folded it, I don't know how many times, and I had it in my wallet, and it became dog-eared and practically dog-chewed. I was never asked for it once, not once. So, unlike, say, America, where you better have your work permit on you, otherwise that's a fine. I got a parking ticket a couple of years ago and still haven't paid it, because when I went into the LTO in Taliban, they said They looked at it. They looked at it with great interest, like this. I've told this story before. Wow. Yes, it's a parking ticket. Yeah. Well, how much is it for? And she looked over and she said, I don't know. We don't give parking tickets. That's Taliban. That's the province for you. So I prefer that. The traffic is very light. I don't see it has its dangers. You don't really want to be driving a car at night, because with so little regulation and such a local way of looking at things, people are dotting about on motorcycles here and there. They're just going down the road, so they don't think of it as going on a long trip. They're just going down the road. Don't really need lights, do we? We'll be there in a minute. Of course, for those of you who are going a distance, suddenly coming across a bike with absolutely no lights on, that can be a shock to the system. But you learn to be extremely careful about overtaking and extremely careful about oncoming traffic, and that's all par for the course, as I've heard golfers say. So there's a lot to and there's a lot for. It's sometimes difficult to get anything done. And if you go in, I've actually heard expat friends say that at one time, it's improving slightly now, but last year certainly one of the people that I know, he came back and he said, well, Alturas it had Campbell's noodle soup and chicken soup. I said, well, that's terrific, maybe I'll pop down and get some. He said, well, don't know whether they have any now. He said, as soon as I saw it, I just put my hand into the shelf like that and pulled every can of soup down into my shopping cart. And that's kind of what you do. And if you go in there and you've been looking for something like this for 3 or 4 months, and then you go in and there they've got one, what do? Well, you buy 2. And that's what you do. So, like anywhere in the world, it has its ways of getting by, and you learn them. The only thing is, will it suit you? That's what you have to. How I've had people introduce themselves and talk about their car, and I had, well, the husband of one friend that I had, he kept a log for his car. He would buy a brand new car, and every mile that car did was logged into a logbook. When did he change the oil? How much water did he do? The coolant? What were the tires? What pressure was the tires? And under what condition? How long was each trip? Into his logbook. And he was the first to say, I'm anal when it comes to my car. Fortunately for me, I'm not. In fact, I'm pretty lackadaisical for most people. It depends what you are like, whether you can fit into this way of life. This way of life is one which people don't get stressed about things. And I've said this before as well, is that sometimes when I'm the driver, so I'm trying to get everybody ready and get in. Can you all get into the bus, please? And somebody won't be arrived yet, and so we'll sit in the bus for a little while. Beth and I bought a bus, a jeepney, long wheelbase jeepney, which we could get everybody in, and which I could do my Sunday driving job, where I pick up all the kids and their parents, and I get them into church. And then when service is over, I take them all home again. So the bus is very useful. So I'll be sitting there and I'll be the one that's ready, and I'll be the one that's saying, why isn't everybody here? They know what time it is. And it's only later that I realise that I am the only one that is getting stressed. So now I've improved a lot on that. what I do is I try to be the one that's late. Maybe not the most perfect way of doing it, but it works. Now, when people are hassling me to get ready, I realise that once I get down there, it will be the old army maximum of hurry up and wait. So I do that. It's not so important to have every little tiny thing arranged here. It just isn't that important, and people are happy. That's what I notice, is that people are happy. And when I suggest to you, and I'll close on this, when I suggest to you that you learn the language, it's for a very good reason. When you don't know the language, and you may be, say, at the dinner table, in a restaurant, anywhere, you will be the only one who isn't laughing because you don't understand what's being said. And everybody is talking, they're all laughing, they're having, it just seems like they fall right into having a great time. And if you don't understand what's going on, and you have to keep saying to your wife, what happened? What did he say? You're down on the fun factor, okay? So, do as I say, not as I do. Learn the language. I hope it helps. There are downsides, there are upsides, many upsides. It's a beautiful, beautiful country with so much to do, and an exchange rate which is well over, let me see, 52 or 53 pesos to the dollar. And that gives you a pretty good lifestyle for not too much money. Okay, enjoy, and bye for now. This is a foreigner in the Philippines.